Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I am doing my Overwatch League 2021 Week 3 picks. I know it's earlier than usual. Usually it's on Fridays, but the games start tomorrow. So here we go. I'm not going to be doing anything for what's going on Sunday because Sunday is matches we don't even know what they are yet. So if you are interested in seeing me give my predictions on what's going to happen on Sunday, follow me on Twitter. Link is in the description. And every single video that I make, it's always down there. So if you want to see me give predictions, I will try to do them on Twitter. But I'm going to jump in. There's some good games this weekend, so definitely want to make sure that I talk about what we got going on. So let's start with Thursday. We got two games. Both of them, I think, are going to be pretty one-sided. We have the Atlanta Reign taking on the Paris Eternal. I think the Paris Eternal have actually been okay. I certainly think they've looked better than the London Spitfire so far. Obviously, just head-to-head, the Eternal and Spitfire both played the Justice, and the Eternal looked significantly better in that series than the Spitfire did when they played, or not the Justice, the Outlaws. They both played the Outlaws, and the Eternal looked much better against the Outlaws than the Justice, or than the Spitfire did. I think the Reign are a good team. I think they have the strengths that they need to be a pretty good team. They just have been clearly struggling a bit, but I think they should be fine going forward. So I think this is an easy win for them. I'm taking the Reign for that one. Second game on Thursday is the Washington Justice taking on the Boston Uprising, and I think this is also a pretty easy one. I think the Washington Justice look to be one of the best teams in the Overwatch League right now, especially in North America. I would say they are top 3 right now in North America, no question. So I give them this win over the Uprising. I think the Uprising have looked pretty bad. They've looked kind of weak, and so I'm going to give this one to the Justice. Moving on to Friday, 3 APAC matches will be happening in the wee hours of the morning that I won't be able to watch, most likely, so I will have to see how it happens on Friday for me. The first game is the LA Valiant taking on the Guangzhou Charge. This is going to be a toilet bowl. We have a couple toilet bowls this weekend. This looks like a pretty rough game. I think these are the two weakest teams in APAC right now. I think the Spark are down there as well, but I think the Spark at least have more potential. They at least have the talent, I think, to get out of this rut, but the Valiant and the Charge don't look very good. I'm going to pick the Charge, mainly because I think that they win out in the tank battle. I think that there's a very clear advantage in Rio and Krong. I think Rio and Krong are both very talented. I think they have some limitations. I think that Krong, outside of his Sigma, is not as strong, and I think Rio is not the most flexible. But they do have Jihoon, and so if they have to play ball, we've seen him play, and I do think Jihoon is pretty good on the ball. So in that way, I think this tank lineup better for the Charge. I think this is a better support line for the Charge. Really, the thing is, DPS, maybe you give the edge to the Valiant, because I actually think Crystal has looked very good so far this season. And I think that when it comes to the matchup between Crystal and Kaylee, I think Crystal might win that duel, potentially. But I think Choi Zae-won's looked very good, and I think that he probably gets the advantage over Milan Rand. So I think Charge will win this one. I think it'll be bad, though, so I don't really care. Ultimately, who wins this one, because I don't think it'll mean much of anything. Moving on to my first big pick game of the weekend, I have the Seoul Dynasty taking on the New York Excelsior. Now, why, you may ask, is this a big pick game? There are some really good games this weekend. Why is this the one that you've chosen? Well, I've chosen this one because New York plays 2 opponents this weekend. They play Seoul, they play Shanghai. And New York basically has to win both of those games to advance to the Melee top 4 for APAC. Now, they can get in if they don't win both, but they most definitely cannot get in if they do not beat the Seoul Dynasty. This is their best chance at winning this weekend, is against this Dynasty roster. So for me, this is a big pick game for both of these teams, really. If you're New York and you really want that shot at the main melee, you have to win this game. It is a very important match. It is do or die for your team if you want that shot. I'm a New York fan, so for me, this is the one that I'm looking out for. Seoul is a team that has fallen into a lot of traps in the past years, especially last year. They would struggle during the regular season. They already have a loss so far this season. Granted, it was to the Philadelphia Fusion, so you don't feel that bad about that loss. But the Dynasty have been known to kind of play down to their opponents at times. They've been known to kind of slip up in matchups they probably shouldn't slip up in. They've looked worse maybe than they should sometimes. So I like the Dynasty in this one. I think this is a big match for both of these teams. I thought New York kind of shook off some of their nerves after their first match against Chengdu. Will they beat this Dynasty team? I don't know. If New York can live up to their scrim potential, there's a chance that they can beat this Dynasty team. But ultimately, this is a matchup that's really going to come down to, which of these two teams has the better day. When, you kind of think if it's New York at their best versus Seoul at their best, Seoul probably gets the edge. But if it's Seoul playing in that way, we've seen them in the past, maybe New York can pull off a win here. So I think it's an interesting one. This is one that's difficult for me to pick. So that's why I have this one here as my first big pick match. The next match for the weekend, the final APAC match on Friday, is the Shanghai Dragons taking on the Hangzhou Spark. Spark are kind of a disaster right now. They're a bit of a catastrophe. They have just replaced their head coach. Pajian, they have moved on from. They also moved on from their assistant coach, Noru, or Noru, or I don't know exactly, Noru. Moved on from him. They've promoted Andante to be their temporary head coach, at least for the time being. Whether or not he stays temporary or becomes their full-time head coach, we don't know yet. They also added Mentalist, who is the former coach of, I believe, Billy Gaming, which is Hangzhou's academy team. So they did make significant coaching changes. I don't think that they are going to be a very good-looking team right away. I need to see what more happens at the Spark team, but I have some concerns, so I think the Dragons take this one. Moving on to the second toilet bowl of the weekend, we have the Boston Uprising taking on the London Spitfire. Boston has not looked very good recently, but I think that they have more potential, and they've shown some kind of flashes. They have some players that you feel pretty good about. I think Faith, Myeonbong, the two main ones that you'd feel pretty good about, so I like the Uprising in this one. The Spitfire have given me no confidence. Even Shax, who I think is a fantastic player and who has looked very, very good on the Tracer in the past, has not really done much of anything. I mean, he got pretty outplayed in their match against the Houston Outlaws by KSF, my boy, the king, my guy, who's not as prolific on Tracer as Shax is. A lot of people say he's not known for his Tracer. KSF's played Tracer quite a bit. It's something that a lot of people just kind of forget about, clearly, but he's pulled out his Tracer quite often. I mean, he's a very flexible player. He plays a lot of different things. Is his Tracer his best hero? No, but it's something he has played in the past. But, I mean, he outplayed him, and it was not a pretty sight. So I don't have a lot of faith in this London team right now. So, yeah, I have them losing to the Uprising. Next match is the San Francisco Shock taking on the Florida Mayhem. I think a lot of people are going to put this match potentially as one of the matches of the week. I don't really think that's the case. I think this is a pretty one-sided affair, to be completely honest with you. I'm still not completely sold on the Mayhem. I think when you put the Mayhem up against the likes of the Reign or the Uprising, the Defiant even, like, they're better than those teams. And if they play the Defiant, it'll be a close series. But I think the Mayhem get the edge in that series. Mayhem are not better than the Shock. Mayhem are not better than the Outlaws. I don't think they're better than the Justice. I don't even think they're better than the Fuel. The Mayhem beat who'd they beat? They beat the Atlanta Reign in a pretty close series and the Vancouver Titans. They have not beaten a really good team. I'm still not 100% confident with OG's play. I still think that they have shown some synergy problems and issues that I need to see them work out. So I don't think this one will be close. This series was close once last year, and it was when they matched up in the main Melee finals. Even then, it was not that much of a close match. There was such a support diff in that one. To me, this is not a close series. I think Shock takes one pretty dominantly. I'll give the Mayhem a map, but I don't think it's going to be that close of a series. My actual second big pick game of the weekend is the Toronto Defiant against the Washington Justice. This one, I think, actually has the potential to be a close game, and it is a game with playoff implications. Both of these teams are currently 2-0. They are both undefeated. They are the two of the teams that could go into the May Melee in North America with an undefeated record. We know Houston's going into it with an undefeated record. Mayhem could as well if they beat the Shock and they win their other game. But one of these teams guaranteed will not be undefeated. And so this is a big game for both of them to prove how good they are and their strengths as a team. The Defiant are 2-0, and I think they have shown some pretty good things. But I still don't think they're going to beat the Justice. I think the Justice look way better. Mag and Fury arguably right now are looking like top 3 tank line in North America. I mean, you think that what we've seen out of Piggy and Jonggu have been very, very good, or Jonggu and Piggy have been very good. I think Fearless and Hanpin have been pretty good, though that's mainly, I think, Fearless has looked really good. But I think Mag and Fury have looked incredible, and so I think that is a team that I think really has a tall task ahead of them when you look at the Defiant. Like, how the Defiant beat them, right? Like, DPS-wise, you feel much better about Decay and Jerry and Assassin than you do Nace and Hisu. Yeah. And then Sato and Michelle. I mean, I think Sato's good. Mag looks better, and Michelle is fine, but Fury is one of the best flex tanks we've ever seen. Support line, I mean, Lastro's probably better than Bebe, but it's not that much of a drop from Lastro to Bebe. It's certainly the one spot where I would say guaranteed the Defiant are better. But then I don't know. I don't think I would say there's much of a difference if it even is a benefit for the Defiant with Ansoon J to closer. So I think the Justice win this one. I think they're the better team. I think they've looked really good. I have a lot of faith in this Justice coaching staff. A lot of people have criticized it. I think they've looked really good so far. So I think Justice take this one. I think it'll be somewhat close because I think the Defiant have the talent to keep this series close, but I think the Justice will take this one. And because it's 2 undefeated teams, big pick for me. Moving on to Saturday, Seoul Dynasty taking on the LA Valiant. This is an easy one. Seoul Dynasty are going to take this one. LA Valiant are not that good. If they're going to win a game this month, it's going to be against the Guangzhou Charge. Dynasty are better than that. I think the Dynasty take this one. I don't think it's that much of a competition. So let's move on to the second one. We have the Guangzhou Charge taking on the Hangzhou Spark. This has some pretty big toilet bowl potential. We have a Charge team that looks kind of bad. Pretty horrendous, but they might be coming off their first win. It's the type of thing where the Charge come out of their match against the Valiant, and what you say is, well, you either beat the Valiant who have players out of position, or you just lost to the Valiant who have players out of position. You don't win anything by playing the Valiant, except for maybe a point. So that's a bit worrisome. The Spark, I think, have more talent. Yes, they're going to have some coaching changes, but this one I think will be pretty close. Historically, the Charge have actually played the Spark pretty well, but last season, maybe not historically, but last season the Charge were good against the Spark, but I just think the Spark have too much talent, and the Chargers haven't really given me much faith, and I think, they'll have a week off, and they might come back and look a lot stronger. So this is one that'll probably end up biting me at the end of the day, because the Spark, which have a ton of weird roster changes and moves, are they really going to be better than a team that has a pretty set-in-stone roster? I don't know. This one will probably be pretty close. I don't think it's going to be a good game anyways, but I'm going to give it to the Spark, mainly because I like the Spark, so... I'm not going to lie, that's a biased pick. I just like the Spark, so I'm giving it to the Spark. Dragons Excelsior is the last match for APAC on Saturday, and the last APAC May Melee qualifier match. I think it's going to go to Shanghai. I know Shanghai didn't look great against Chengdu. A lot of teams didn't. Fusion, the only team that did. I'm not worried about Shanghai. I think they'll be just fine. I think they're going to be playing in the May Melee tournament. Whether that means they have to beat the Fusion or the Hunters, I think they'll beat one of them. I think they are just the better team. Maybe not the Fusion as much. I think that one's pretty close, but I think with a rematch with the Hunters, the Dragons will win that one. I just have more faith in them. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. You know, that type of thing. I feel pretty good about them, so I think they take down the Excelsior pretty easily. NYXL have done some things I like, but I don't think they're ready yet to challenge the Dragons. Moving into the North America matches for Saturday, we have a good one. We have the Florida Mayhem taking on the Bears Eternal. Woo! That was a joke. I think the Mayhem take this one pretty easily. Eternal don't look that great. They have a win at least, but I think the Mayhem are better, and I think they'll take that one. London Spitfire take on the Toronto Defiant. That's another one I think is easy. Give that one to the Toronto Defiant. They are significantly better than the Spitfire right now. Spitfire do not look very good. I think that this is a team that probably has a lot of work to do before they look ready to go. So I throw this one in the direction of the Defiant because I think they are just better. Final match of the qualifier portion of the weekend, excluding the tournament stuff. We have the Shock taking on the Reign, of course, one of the greatest rematches of all time, is going on, and I don't think this one will be particularly close. I just think that there's a pretty big skill gap right now between the Shock and the Reign. I like the Reign. I like parts of the Reign, I should specify. I don't think the entire team is great, but I do like parts of the team, and I think that they are looking pretty lean. But the Shock are just too talented, man. They're so good. And you know, they have a couple. There's questions, but you lose to an Outlaws team in a 6-map series. I have zero concerns about the Shock. I think they're the second best team in North America right now. I think we should be predicting them to be a team to make it all the way to the tournament in Hawaii. And so for me, this is a pretty easy pick. Give me the San Francisco Shock here for that one. As I've said, there are also some tournament matches this weekend. Sunday, mark your schedule. I believe there are 6 games, if I recall correctly. Maybe even more than that. No, there's 6. 2 APAC games, 1 Sunday, 5 a.m. Eastern, 2 a.m. Pacific, 10 a.m. UK time, and then another one an hour and a half roughly later, and then 3 p.m. on Sunday we get the first of the matches in the good old, I don't even remember what it's called. I'm drawing a blank. I'm really struggling. North American region, we get those matches starting there. That one is 6 teams, so the 2 teams that are the top of the North American region at the end of the qualifiers. So the Houston Outlaws are one of those teams, most likely. Not guaranteed, but most likely one of those teams, right? The 2 teams with the best record will automatically go on to that kind of second set of games, the 6 p.m., 7:30 p.m. games. So just keep an eye out on that kind of stuff if you're wondering how the format's going to work. But yeah. So those are my picks for this week. Nothing too crazy, I think. I think this week is going to have a lot of games that are kind of going to be one-sided stomps. There's some, maybe, but a lot of it, I think, is going to be pretty one-sided. So I'm curious to hear other people's thoughts on some of these matches. I'm very excited to see what happens. So yeah, let me know down below your thoughts on these games, who you think's gonna win, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, if you enjoyed this video and you want more like it, consider liking and subscribing, because I do this stuff every week, so you can expect a lot of them. But yeah, thank you so much. Hope you're all staying safe and staying healthy. And until next time, bye-bye.